What I love about it is I also feel like I'm now part of a community of really like-minded people.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page. And the reasons why these parents don't want their kids in school, I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
You know, I know what they don't want their kids to be taught.
Yeah.
I know what they do want their kids to be taught, and I cover that and I share that with them and I check in with them. And the kids get a lot of freedom in what they learn as well.
Yeah.
So I'm always asking the kids, what are you interested in? You know, we do things like passion projects where each child would choose a topic of their interest. And for maybe 5 or 6 weeks, we work on that as a group, but they're all doing their own independent research. We don't use IT at all.
Yeah.
So they bring books in.
Yeah.
You know, they might print some information off at home and bring it in. So they're learning how to do their own research and how to summarize information.
Yeah.
And they're learning all these skills, but in a far more interesting and holistic way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can get pretty dry. I remember school, and for me, I didn't find it interesting
No.
whatsoever. And there was a massive disconnect. Like I don't feel that I had a real connection with any of my teachers at
Yeah.
any point in my schooling time.
Yeah.
So to hear something like that is amazing.
Yeah.
With the parents, I don't know if you can speak on it or not, but what are the common themes of why parents would even choose to go down this path, other than the ones that were previously talked about? But yeah, what's the common themes between the parents of how they've even come to making that decision?
A lot of them was when they were worried that their kids were going to need to be vaccinated to be in school.
Yeah.
They didn't like their kids wearing masks in school.
Yeah.
They also felt that there was a lot of indoctrination in terms of content that's taught in school. Some of them always knew that they were going to homeschool. They were never going to, and some kids have never been to mainstream school. They've been homeschooled since birth, basically.
Okay.
But most in my group were pulled out in 2021.
So they've all just looked at it and gone, nah, I'm not having this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's the same thing for children as right. They would have had to be vaccinated to go to school.
No, they didn't.
They didn't?
But we were threatened that they would be.
Yeah.
So I think they were getting out before it got to that.
Was there a fear, I don't know if this is too extreme, but was there a fear that if you just left your child at school for too long unattended, that they would just roll in and vaccinate everybody?
I think there was a fear of that because I know it was happening, like these vaccine buses were turning up at schools in England, and I think parents were really worried that that was going to happen here.
Yeah, just without approval, it was just giving it to everybody.
Yeah.
I remember vaccines happening at my school, or my primary school when I'm younger, and obviously I was so young, so I don't understand how they followed like getting approval for things like that. But from my perspective at that point in time, it seemed like they just rolled in and started vaccinating people.
Yeah. I remember, so we moved here when my kids were 5 and 8. We moved from England.
Yeah.
And the kids did get vaccinations at school, but you did have to have parent permission before that went through.
Okay, yeah. And so with this new model, I guess, of educating children, at what point do you think it becomes too big? Like you mentioned, this other group is doing it on a larger scale. Do you think that the best way is it just stays small scale groups all over Melbourne or all over town?
I think there's definitely potential for my group to grow in size.
Yeah.
Like I think it would be great for us to have one more teacher and we could open that up to then grades 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Which would be really great. I think keeping the small class size, like ideally no more than 8 in a class, is perfect for the kids and for us, because then you can still keep it very much what the parents want for homeschooling. But if the group is too small, it limits what you can do, like the games you can play. And there's so much like team building, stuff like that. But if there's only 4 in your group, 2 and 2, it's not a really big team. So yeah, I think we definitely have room to grow. And I'd love to see more of these popping up all over the place as well.
It'd be pretty cool. It seems to me, from my perspective, that a lot more parents seem to be wanting to go that direction, but just have no idea how to get into it.
Yeah. And it's pretty scary. Like the thought of you being totally responsible for your child's education and maybe not being sure yourself how to achieve that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility because some children, as they get older, decide they do want to go to school.
Yeah.
Like I know kids who were homeschooled all through primary, but then in high school said to their parents they wanted to go to school, but probably for the social aspect, who knows.
Yeah.
But if they're not up to level, it's really hard to integrate.
Yeah.
So, the homeschooled families, it's a big responsibility. And if your child wants to go on to further education after school as well, will they be able to? Have you kept their level up to the point where they're able to access, uni or whatever they want to do?
Yeah, so there's still a pretty important element of they have to be following certain guidelines and making sure they're ticking the right classic sort of boxes, mathematics, English, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So because I have such limited time with my students, we only have 4 hours, 2 days a week.
Yeah.
The focus is literacy and numeracy, but I don't just do straight reading or writing. I'll always include inquiry, or I call it the world around us. So we'll learn a topic, usually of their interest, and we'll extend upon that topic through a written or reading or oral task.
Okay,
so
cool.
we include everything, but covering lots at the same time.
Yeah. And do you know of anyone doing it older than year 6?
Yes. So this year I'm going to start teaching 2 sisters on a Friday. They're going to be coming to my house and they will be grade 6 and 8.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Right on. That's awesome.
Yeah. And they were at a private school in Melbourne, but they've been homeschooling for about the last 3 years as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Far out. So there's quite a lot of people out there doing it.
Yeah.
I know that there's a big fear with some parents that I've spoken to that I don't know if this is just coming, where this information is coming from, but there's this big fear of negligence, like if you try and take your education into your own hands and how you're going to raise these kids, like you're going to be doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's misguided or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, parents do question themselves with that. They want to make sure that they're doing the best for their kids. And I think it is very brave of them.
Yeah.
Even though when I say that to many of the homeschool parents, they go, no, it's not brave at all. It's just the perfect thing. So I think you have to have some confidence in yourself and definitely join homeschool groups because there's a lot of support out there. There's a lot of local groups, but there's also national groups that you can get the support from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they guide you all the way. And there's online programs that you can follow, so you can still do that from home as well.
So you don't necessarily just have to cut off from the
No.
world and do it alone.
That would be a really bad idea.
I'd say
you
why
need that
is that?
support. Because I think you need that community around you.
Yeah.
So that you can still give your kids those social meetups as well.
Yeah.
The thought of just having your kids at home 5 days a week, just sitting at the kitchen table doing work.
Could be a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the social aspect of learning and socializing in general is really important for all human development. So for the parents as well, to get out and chat to those other homeschool parents, they get ideas from each other.
Yeah.
And they can do stuff together with their kids, like excursions. My group go to museums and to theatre and all that stuff together.
And then I guess the parents probably get so much value from having someone like yourself showing up a couple days a week because it can keep, I guess you're updating their knowledge about where to move forward, right?
Yeah, I think it gives them some peace of mind. And like one of my students, he did prep for 6 months and then he didn't like school at all and it was really struggling and it was the time of the lockdowns and all that. So his parents took him out of school.
Yeah.
So he hasn't had any schooling, no tutoring, nothing for 1.5 years by the time he came to me. So all of his skills were quite low.
Yeah.
But within this year, he's gained so much confidence. He's really improved. And more than anything, his self-esteem and his confidence is sky high. He
amazing.
loves coming to learning group. He's so excited. I have such a good bond with him. And his mum says, it's because of the bond that you have with him that he wants to learn.
Yeah.
So I think that for me is the most important thing, no matter where I'm teaching. It's creating that rapport with a child so that they know that I really care about them and whatever their struggles are, we'll work through it together, you know. And so long as you just give your best and you give everything a go, and you keep an open, like a growth mindset, that's how we're going to progress and get through it, you know. And if they're struggling with something, it's more you just don't know it yet. But with patience and perseverance and maybe trying things in a different way, you'll grasp that, you know, and then they feel so proud of themselves and it's awesome.
And do you feel like from your university studies, the way that the system's currently set up, do you feel like that is, I guess, adequate education for teachers to step into a role like this? Because it's sounding to me like you have potentially quite a natural ability for this, and just from your own life lessons, you've learned a lot of how you want to do things. But do you think that just from going to university, teachers are going to be able to get the skills to be able to run something like that, which is they have a lot more freedom?
I think it depends on your outlook in life and all the experiences that everyone carries. I think your first year of teaching when you leave uni, no matter where or how you do that, is pretty daunting. Yeah. You know, you have so much to learn. Yeah. But you're always learning as a teacher or as a human. We're always learning. So, you know, nothing goes well all the time and we all make mistakes. Yeah. But so long as we learn from those mistakes and we just try it differently next time. And I'm really honest with all the kids I teach, whether it's in a mainstream school or my homeschool kids. You know, I make mistakes too. And I love them to see that, because then they see that it's okay to make mistakes and we're all human. And as long as we don't get down about that and think, oh, I'm really bad at this, I'm just not even going to bother trying, it's turning it around. You know, it's like, okay, that didn't work, never mind. And we always have a laugh. I laugh with my students so much. I'm like, oh my goodness. You gotta have fun. Yeah. I'm like, look what I just did. And they're like, oh, Jade. I'm like, I know. You know, we just make it fun. And it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. That's how we all learn. Yeah. And when they do make a mistake, we'll discuss those mistakes, have a laugh, and just say, let's try it differently. Let's maybe get some materials if it's something in maths. You know, it seems like you're not understanding this part, so let's just go back to the basics. You work through it together and it's like a light bulb moment. They get it. And then we're like, yes, you know, and we celebrate each other.
Ah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I was just thinking about this as you were speaking. With these smaller groups happening, when it comes to parents and having their own way that they want their children to be raised, it seems like that's almost a taboo thing to say anymore. Like taking control of how you raise your own children, as opposed to, I guess, the state knowing better or the government knowing better. Obviously, like we mentioned, you're covering those fundamental learning skills that they're going to need if they want to step into standard education at some point. Yeah. But with these smaller groups, I guess really picking the teacher like yourself, they can tailor so many other areas of, I guess, how they want the education to go, right? Like not every group would have to be necessarily the same in terms of their values or their structure.
Yeah. And the parents let me know what's important to them.
Yeah.
And then I tailor the learning to include all that. Trouble is, even though it might only be a small group, all of the parents, they'll agree on lots of things. Yeah. But, you know, they all have differences.
Of course.
So sometimes it can be a bit tricky to please everyone. But I just say, look, I can't please everyone. I'm going to do my best. This is what I can offer. Yeah. You know, it's not going to tick every single box, but you've got to think about the benefits that you get overall from this.
Yeah. And do the parents communicate with one another about how they can sort of combine the values of what they're going for?
They have lots of communication. Yeah, they meet up regularly. We have meetings. They talk to me all the time. There's one parent who runs it, or one mum and dad who kind of run the whole thing. Yeah. We feed back to them a lot. Yeah, and we have really open communication. And I always say to the parents, tell me straight away, as soon as something's happening, whether it's an issue with kids not being kind to each other, or, you know, something that's gone on and I'm not aware of, let me know, because the sooner I know, the sooner we can adapt things to make it run smoothly, which you don't get in schools. You know, with 25 kids, you just can't. You couldn't, even if all the parents were coming to you all the time, you couldn't facilitate that. It's too big.
Well, you get to communicate with the teacher, what, twice a year?
Yeah.
Or once a year?
Yeah.
I can't remember how much.
Twice a year in parent-teacher
Twice a year for parent-teacher interviews. Yeah. So it's not a lot. And even then it can be, I guess, quite generic.
Yeah.
This is not to completely just put down teachers everywhere. Like, obviously, we need teachers and everybody's doing their best. It's more of a systemic thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the teachers I know are wonderful, caring, kind teachers. The problem is there's never enough time in the day to do all the jobs that they're expected to do.
Yeah.
So even though I went through a really hard and upsetting time of basically being kicked out the system and thinking I was never going to be able to teach again, when I compare my life now to that year of full-time teaching, my work-life balance is so much better for doing something that I'm so much happier doing. It's just win-win. You know?
Blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah, it really is.
And from there, realistically, because I guess when we have conversations like this, I'm always looking towards the ideal, you know, like how can everybody do this? How can the whole education system improve? And I love hearing opinions on it like yourselves. Realistically, for like the average parents and students out there, like how accessible is it to try and get into something like this? Like, is it far more expensive to be able to do it? Does it take a lot more time? Like, what sort of family setup do people need to even think about getting into that?
Well, it depends where you go. Like, most of these setups, I think, cost about $50 a day. Yeah. So it depends how many children you have as well. But it's not every day. It's usually, most of these setups are just like 2 days a week. Yeah. Obviously, there's during school holidays, there's nothing to be paid there.
What's childcare is way more expensive than that, right? Isn't it like $200 a day, depending on where you can go?
So you think if you're paying $50 for 4 hours with a teacher, even if you were to get a tutor in, most tutors are like $60 to $80 an hour. Yeah. So minimum. And the kids are getting that whole socialization and learning how to work with others. I mean, I know financially it can be hard for some parents, particularly if they've got 3 or 4 kids. Yeah. And they do other stuff as well, you know, so they do have tutors outside of this, and they do have sports and music and languages and things like that. So depending how you do it, you know, it can really add up.
Yeah, because with more free, I guess they have much more free time throughout the week as well. So how do you fill those hours? Yeah. Typically with hopefully really fun and awesome things to do. Yeah. But can cost money, right?
Yeah, it does. I know in Queensland, they're way more set up than we are down here.
How so?
There's just so many more of these groups. Yeah. Like particularly far north Queensland, like Port Douglas.
The relaxed hippie
so
culture.
So many people up there did not get vaccinated. They're more aware of what's going on in the world. I was up there on holiday a couple of years ago, and they were like, move up here. We've got so much work for you. You know, there's so many homeschool groups. We're always looking for more teachers. And I see it in the groups that I'm in online. There's so much work up there. So they're doing it really well.
Would you ever consider moving up there, or you like what you're doing here?
I suppose my husband's family is down here, so we'd be staying here. And my kids are happy here, so we'd probably stay. But
sounds like Melbourne needs the help.
Yes. Definitely.